Hopefully it won't be. I don't think it should go pretty quick. I would think, yeah.
I put
Oh.
about a 30-minute.
We ready? Okay, we will call the April 18th, 2023 regular council meeting to order. If you'd all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item on the agenda is going to be, before we approve it, if you look at G under old business, we are going to strike that line from the agenda tonight. So if I could entertain a motion.
I so move. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so G, there'll be nothing under old business then. Now I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. All right. Do that page 2 before I get myself confused. Next item on the agenda is open forum. First item in open forum is public comment.
Mr. Mayor, consent calendar, please.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry. Yeah. Consent calendar. I thought that's what we were doing. You're supposed to be quicker than that. No. So, if we could, if I could get, if anyone has any questions on the consent calendar or not, otherwise, if we could get a motion to approve.
I so move. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now open forum. Public comment is first. This is a time for anyone who has something they want to bring up that isn't on the agenda to do so. If they wish to, we'll give you 5 minutes to comment. If you have something that's on the agenda, we'll give you time at that point to come up. So open forum, public comment is open. Anyone? Seeing none, we will go to Carl Newbanks, Initiative Foundation updates.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Chair, council members. I've got a little bit of information that I might would that be okay? There's what I call a county fact sheet and a project list and then some IQ magazines there. It's a pleasure to just have a few minutes to give a quick update regarding the Initiative Foundation and our work and our history. I'm often unsure exactly how familiar everyone is with the foundation. So maybe I'll just give a brief rundown of our history and our impact, and then I could walk you through a few of the sheets there and give some more recent impacts as to what's been going on here in Nisswa, and then also talk about some of the services and programming that we provide that you and your businesses could tap into. The Initiative Foundation has been around since 1986. I always like to just kind of encapsulate the reason for our existence is that in 1986, folks felt like all of rural Minnesota was flooding into the Twin Cities. And that if we didn't do something, we were going to end up with a bunch of really great towns in rural Minnesota that used to be great places to live and just became an empty intersection with a gas station and a bar. And so the McKnight Foundation and local leadership got together, spent about 2 years meeting with stakeholders and decided that if we could just seed 6 regional foundations with a mission of driving economic and community development in rural Minnesota, that we could then seed those foundations and let them grow and continue to just challenge them to support businesses, entrepreneurs, et cetera, in rural Minnesota. And so that's what happened. The McKnight Foundation created the 6 Minnesota Initiative Foundations. We are the foundation called the Initiative Foundation. I'm not sure at what point we dropped Central Minnesota from our name, but at some point years ago, we dropped Central Minnesota out and are just the Initiative Foundation. We serve 14 counties in rural Minnesota, central Minnesota here, all the way from Cass down to Stearns, Todd, Wadena, and all the way to Wisconsin. That's the chunk of the state that we serve. We have grown to provide lots of programming and services, which I will expound on in a minute. But also we are a CDFI, meaning Community Development Financial Institution. So we also do lending as part of our economic development, which is a little bit different than a lot of foundations. We do grant writing, we do grant making, we do programming, but we also do lending as well as part of our foundation's work. What you have in front of you there is what we call kind of our county impact sheet. And it just is a quick snapshot of our impact from 1986 to today. The bold numbers you see there are the amount of donations we've collected from within the county and the amount that we have been able to invest back into the county through grant making, lending, private leverage that has been brought in as a result of lending activities and grants that we've been able to bring in from outside the region and have been put to work back here in Crow Wing County. And then down at the very bottom right, you can also see a quick snapshot of number of grants, number of loans, nonprofits served, people served, et cetera. My lending and tracking software goes back all the way to 1986, but over all those years, they didn't necessarily record which city a lot of those projects were in. So I only have county level data, but for the last 3 years, I do have city level data. And so I brought that along and I thought I would just give a quick preview of what's happened, or sorry, a quick summary of what's happened in the city of Nisswa itself since 2020. Again, a lot of COVID response work was funneled through the foundation. DEED asked the Initiative Foundation to facilitate all of its emergency relief grants to businesses, which was great work for us because as a nonprofit, we're not allowed to make grants to for-profit entities. But in the COVID emergency, the federal government said, that's okay. We're going to let foundations make grants to for-profit businesses. DEED funneled a lot of that relief to us. Here in the city of Nisswa, that accounted for in 2021 and 2022, 26 emergency relief grants totaling $234,000 in the city of Nisswa itself that we were able to facilitate into the city. So we're happy about that. We also do have one active lending project in the city of Nisswa as well, which I believe we participated in purchase of a local business here, new ownership purchasing a business. I believe it just opened again. And I'm not allowed to talk about the details, but I believe it's open now and going and was a business purchase. And I would also point out one other thing that we've participated in, mainly as a point of emergency relief, but was access to affordable childcare. So it was an initiative that we were engaged in. One city that we had worked with in the region, and this was kind of the catalyst for some of our thinking, they had wanted to hire a new city administrator, really recruited a great candidate, brought them in. Candidate said, we'd love the job. We want to come to work in this rural town. And then found out that the wait list to put their child in childcare was 2.5 years. And so it just was almost impossible to attract talent and bring workers into that city with that kind of a wait list. So we started working on how can we help cities increase access to affordable childcare, recognizing that's a barrier to having a strong workforce. We were working on this project. And then, of course, as part of COVID relief, there was a bunch of grants made available to childcare providers. We did facilitate one of those here in Nisswa to directly support a childcare provider. And we continue to expand on that work, working with DEED and working with the state. One of the projects that we have going now, and we're hoping to get renewed funding from the state. We're hoping to see even as much as $1 million come to the Initiative Foundation to support this work. But you never know until the legislature's done and they've got everything wrapped up. But we will go into communities and ask them, we'd love to help you gather the stakeholders, find out what the barriers are, what are the challenges. And then after we've discovered the barriers and the challenges, what are the solutions? And what does the city feel like are the solutions for this area? And then how can we help get some feet behind those solutions and kind of move things forward? It's been a successful project that we've run in several cities and some regions so far, Malacca, St. Cloud, Cold Spring, I think Cambridge as well, Pine City. It's been successful and we're hoping to continue to do that, as well as to bring some dollars to bear to help childcare facilities actually, and even private home-based facilities do some renovations and expand the number of slots they have and better serve children as well. So I wish I could promise that that's going to continue, but again, we have our own funds that we do leverage for that, but we're hoping for much more from the state, and we'd love to see that happen and continue to do that. And if that were to come through, again, those would be resources that you would be eligible to apply for and get involved in as a city. We continue to support nonprofit development. For many, many years, we've worked to support and increase the capacity of nonprofit organizations, many of which serving your city have participated in that. Recently, we provide fundraising school. We want to help nonprofits do a better job of fundraising, embrace technology, social media fundraising, all these tools that they can access. We continue to work with nonprofit leaders to develop their capacity and training and knowledge, board development, management, et cetera. Over the years, we've trained hundreds and hundreds of nonprofits and thousands of nonprofit leaders through our nonprofit development programming. In fact, I think May 18th is our next grant writing workshop at our foundation headquarters in Little Falls. We continue to host donor advice funds and charitable funds to support nonprofits and causes and education foundations and community foundations all across the region. We believe in helping people take their wealth and put it to work in the region permanently by establishing an endowed fund that will grow and pay returns into the region. We have people do it for the school they graduated from, the city they grew up in, causes they believe in, their favorite nonprofit, et cetera. And so we continue to support that work and encourage people in that work with some of the estate planning resources that you have as well. We continue to serve folks across the region. I would also point out we do lending, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of gap loans. So when banks are uncomfortable with funding an entire project, they need someone to take on a riskier portion of the loan, a second position, whatever it might be. We are always willing, shouldn't say always, the lending staff would get mad at me for saying always, but we really try to come in and participate in deals when at all possible. We want to see deals happen in rural Minnesota. We want to support those deals. And we have found that our niche is to take that second place or to help make those projects move forward. And we get involved in smaller dollar amounts and larger dollar amounts. And I think I'm probably running out of time. So I would just say we continue to provide grants as well. We have our innovation fund that folks can apply to and receive grants. And we continue to support cities as well with some of our economic grants. So if you had needs for feasibility studies or other sorts of needs like that, these are great opportunities to circle around with us and say, hey, with the foundation, have funds that would help us out, fund this, get this done, kind of take it to the next step. I think I'd stop there and say also thank you for your annual support. Most of our cities in the region support the foundation, and folks often ask me, where does that support go? It does go to support all of our economic development activities. And also it creates a long list of funders that I leverage with outside funders, such as the Wells Fargo Foundation, the US Bank Foundation, the Funders Network, the Center for Disaster Philanthropy. And we will write applications to say, we want to bring external money into our region. And they'll say, show us you have support. And then I show this list and say, these are people, individuals, businesses, cities, and counties that make financial contributions to support our work. And I think that's the best way to demonstrate that we have strong regional support for the work we do. We've been able to bring in, even in the last year, upwards of $4 or $5 million of external money and put it to work within the region. And I credit that to that long list of cities and counties and donors and businesses that support us annually. I'd be happy to take any questions. Sorry for just kind of unloading a lot of information on everyone, but happy to take any questions.
Well, this is kind of like development, economic development, and that's something that we've been visualizing, looking at. One of our hindrances is, and I say this all the time, is water. We have no city water. Would you help with something with that on how we would go about funding that?
We have funded or helped people fund feasibility studies for projects like that in the past. I think has been kind of our sweet spot.
Okay.
I know, for example, now the name of the city escapes me, but something similar to that. And they had said, you know, what we really need is $7,500 so we can say, oh, we have this money and we matched it with this, and now we've got 15,000 and we feel like we can finally get a feasibility study off the ground. So yeah, I would say that would definitely be a project or something along those lines that you could reach out to us and see if we have funding available. I have to admit our funding does cycle up and down. And so sometimes people have a need when we're at a low spot where all the funds are already out the door. You know what I mean? But we try to do our best to make sure we can help.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time. And
Thank you.
again, thanks
Yeah.
for your contribution, and feel free, to reach out anytime if there's ever anything we can do. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next item is Tom. Public Works Department Annual Report.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
All right. So what you see on the board up there, really what I've done is I've given you an increased FYI section to what is my normal monthly council report. And so there's just a few things I want to go over, more just points of interest possibly, and maybe it stirs a question or two from you. First one, probably biggest on most of our minds right now is the effect of the hard winter we've had and the fact that it's ongoing and its effect on our roads. Cold patch, I think we're spending upwards of 3 to 4 times as much this year as we do in a normal year. Currently, we believe it's right around 15,000 that we've spent on cold patch to fill potholes. And it's still going. We ordered 4 more pallets today, and we bought another one from Menards because our suppliers are having a hard time keeping us supplied. So I think other jurisdictions are also having trouble with pothole filling if you check around, but obviously it's been a challenging spring for that, and I commend the maintenance staff for doing what they can with it. Every time we get another snowstorm like we're supposed to get possibly yet this week, it creates another round of potholes to deal with. So I think we have at least one more round to go through, and then maybe we're done. Kind of along those lines, dealing with road maintenance. Last year in 2022, we spent $92,703.02 on patches and crack filling. I thought that one was fairly high, but last winter was a pretty good winter too, again. But I believe this one is probably gonna be worse as far as needing patching and crack filling. Just to kind of give you a heads up, I expect that we may spend more like 120,000 this year on that work, depending on how the spring finishes out. Usually what I do is, after the last of the snow goes out just before or just after, road restrictions come off, I cruise all the roads around town, checking for potholes and crack filling and anything that may have changed in the year's time, trying to notice any new problems that have popped up. 2 items that I could say we would be looking at, talking to Anderson Brothers about is, well, one item in particular, I guess, is Lower Roy Lake Road, that harsh intersection we have. I want to get a quote from them to round that off, if possible, to match the trail, possibly when it's done. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, how that is, but between trees and other things, there's always a lot of fender benders there. Several times a year when I'm coming into work, I come that way most days, and there'll be car parts laying on the ground there. It's obviously somebody's had a fun.
Where that curve is, it's kind of confusing. Some people think, oh, I need to go straight and then make a right. Yeah, it gets
Yeah.
confusing for people.
Most people cut the corner really bad too, and they fly through there. And we have warning signs on there for 15 miles an hour, so it's just a bad curve. And I think we can do some things to improve the safety of that without redoing the entire road. That is a road we will consider for the 2025 road bond, but it's probably not high enough on the priority list to do on its own unless, some other circumstances with it, like the trail being added or something else were to come along. as far as condition goes, it's not one of our worst roads. So. On the sewer side, yesterday we received a sewer plant operations award. Mike and the guys have done an excellent job once again. This is our 9th year in a row. We've gotten the operations award and the 10th overall that I'm aware of since 2011. So that's pretty good. That just means that we're hitting all of our effluent limits. We're not exceeding anywhere. We run a clean and efficient plant. And this is the MPCA's way of recognizing plants that do well. Kind of along those lines, we have hosted quite a few training events for the MPCA in the last couple of years. Mike and Bub have done a wonderful job hosting them, and we have gotten accolades for that. So thank you to them for the work they do. Continuing on with wastewater. Last year in 2022, the total amount that we had sprayed was 43.19 million gallons of treated wastewater. For comparison, last year we sprayed 41.28. So in 1 year, we've gone up 4.6% again. So we continue to rise at a pretty rapid rate between development and people moving up that maybe were seasonal that are now full-time. Our flow continues to rise. One more sewer item that I have, this just happened this week. In the Cove, we had a sewer main break. We had Pratt's Excavating come out and do the repair for us. What we found was that it had been penetrated by boring for CTC. So we haven't seen the bill for this yet, but when we do, we will be getting hold of CTC to see what we can do. So
Plus 10%.
right. It happens. I don't know if any of you are familiar with some of the house explosions that you've heard in the area, not here per se, but you know, in the region. Excel had a lot of trouble with penetrating sewer lines, and they come along with the roto-rooter thinking that they had a tree root problem, and what they had was a gas line problem and would make the house go boom. So it can be a serious issue. So when you see all the little flags for locates, those aren't just us trying to mess up somebody's yard. They do serve a purpose, and I hope people will leave them until the projects are done. Another item of note with our maintenance department, we took delivery of our new ditch mower tractor last month. If any of you are interested in having a look at that, stop down and talk to Mike. I'm sure he'd be happy to show it to you. Otherwise, come middle to end of June, you should see it out operating and doing what needs to be done to keep the weeds and trees down along the edge of the road. It should be a pretty big improvement over what we were using. So I want to thank you guys again for approving that and allowing us to have equipment like that. Along with equipment, I think you're aware that we ordered a new F-450 that Mike Deck uses. We're not sure, but that order may have gotten messed up somewhere between the dealer and Ford. There's a chance we may not have an F-450 coming. I will keep you apprised of that, but there's a possibility we may not have a truck on its way.
Would this be the second time they've done that? Or the first time?
This would probably be the second.
That they lost it.
They,
Or
whatever, somehow it got messed up. So I don't know what we'll do different next time. Maybe one of the competitors have a better deal for us. A little bit of more equipment news, and this is kind of good. If you know, at the beginning of the year, we had ordered a mini loader from Bobcat. Mike told me this afternoon that should be here within a week. We're just waiting for a few parts for a backup camera to be installed, and then it'll be delivered. So looking forward to having that available to help with the big cleanup that we've got from the winter storm. back in December, if you remember, all the blow down and everything, we still have a huge cleanup job to do. As soon as road restrictions come off, the guys are gonna be very busy with that. And so this will be a handy tool for them to use for that. The next item I have, just kind of something to be aware of, and I want to thank our maintenance staff for covering for them. If you remember, or if you're aware, Mike Wagner was out with a medical issue this past winter for a few months. And the guys did an excellent job covering for him. And if you see them, I'd like you to thank them. They covered both departments very well. And when we had a record snowfall for the year, they did a great job, and I just want to call that out for them. With that, we may have Mike out, young Mike out for a period similar to that this upcoming fall. I'll let you know if that's going to actually happen, but just to be aware, we may be down a man, one of our supervisors again this fall. And so please be patient. If that happens, we may be struggling to compensate. The last item I have, I don't know if any of you are aware, but MnDOT is working on a corridor study project between here and Baxter. That's going to take place sometime around 2031. Part of it where it concerns us are things like our backage roads, proposed backage roads we would like to build. Those will be considered as part of this study. Last week, I was a part of a group that helped select the engineering firm that will perform that study. The winning firm for that was Bolton and Mink. I don't know what the next step is yet, but I'm sure I'll be hearing soon what that will be. But so keep an eye out on that. There's a lot of exciting ideas and projects that are being proposed as part of that, and it will change the way 371 between here and Baxter looks and feels. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there to make that a much more usable section of road for all of us. That's kind of all I have. Are there any questions I can answer?
Yeah, I was just, this year has really been bad with the potholes. And I know you guys have been pretty busy. How has it gone for them?
Good overall. They do say they wish they had at least one or two more men, because the two junior guys this morning were telling me all about how they've had many near misses with people almost hitting them. People just won't slow down. And they've gone as far as trying to park the truck in the middle of the road to slow them down. So they have to think about going around them. People just fly around, they drive the ditch, whatever they can think of, and they won't give them a break. And so I'm imploring them, asking people, please consider when you go around a work truck like that, it may not be a man there too. It could be the Bobcat, in which your car will not win. So be aware of that.
So you have the truck and then they're working over here or something, so the cars have to go around it type thing right now, but they just don't slow down.
No, well, we don't have the third man to do the flagging. So, the two of them are doing the filling of the pothole. And, when you're doing that, your eyes aren't up looking for traffic. You're trying to keep an eye on what you're doing. And when you in between shovels, you're looking to see if somebody's coming. So I would ask people to slow down and be careful, even though our roads are posted at 30 miles an hour. 30 miles an hour is very fast around a work road.
Have you been hearing much from people about how bad the roads are or anything like that?
Yes. Yep. We've had some complaints, and some people have gotten verbally abusive of our guys too. I would ask that they not do that. If they have an issue with how we are maintaining the roads here in town, I would ask that they call into City Hall and talk to me. If not me, maybe Jenny or one of you folks, and we can discuss what our procedures for taking care of these issues and what we can improve and what we can't.
I know the area from here to Schaefer's and then where I go, There were a couple of really bad ones, but they're fixed now, or at least they've been plugged up for now.
Yeah, we chase them down, you know, like some areas, some of our busier areas, such as the roads going through Grandview. We go through there every week and some of the same potholes will reopen. And it just has to do with the way the freeze thaw works. Cold patch isn't a long-term repair. It's kind of a Band-Aid. And that's why, like I was talking about earlier, we'll be spending close to $120,000 doing patches and crack filling because that is the longer term repair.
Do the guys have the necessary signage and stuff available to them? So when they're marking they're able to mark the work areas, legally mark them,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
Okay,
we are very good about providing safety equipment. If
Good.
they ask, we usually never question it. We just get it coming.
Kind of piggybacking off of the conversations we had yesterday at the community center during our retreat. With this knowledge of Mike Deck being out for roughly 3 months.
Mhm.
What sort of situation is that gonna put you in your department, having him out during quarter of the year?
Luckily for us, Mike is very conscientious about how our department operates. And other than, it's probably the slowest time of year we have, not that we really have a slow time anymore. But if we did have one, it is the fall. If we have, especially if we have a nice fall, it can be a little slower. But what we will try to do is, you know, Mike Deck made up for Mike Wagner being out. I'm expecting Mike Wagner will help pick up the pace, and the two guys I have working underneath Mike Deck are very capable of self-motivating. They're very competent, and where possible, I will try to step in and help out. But you know, there'll be a sacrifice or two that have to be made, maybe a little more overtime or something to make it work.
Since you have this time up here right now, and thank you for your presentation, is there any additional requests that you want to make, at least present to us right now? That you forecast are going to be a detriment to your department for the rest of the year?
You know, that's the big one. And, you know, we talked about it in depth yesterday. And so I think you guys are pretty well aware of the situation we're facing. And I hope you're able to strongly consider that going into the next budget cycle. That's
I
really
guess,
what we need.
I guess the tandem off that though, is there an immediate need that needs to be presented and then discussed amongst everybody to be able to put a plan in place in the next 30 days, the next council meeting, to bring on additional staff for this year in the event of an emergency situation?
Hiring somebody is never a fast thing for us. I've yet to see any department in the city hire a new person that didn't take about 3 months to accomplish from the time we decide we want to hire someone, advertise for candidates, interview, make an offer, and get them started. So saying that, if we hired them May 1st, you know, you'd be June, July, you'd be really expecting them to be on duty by August 1, I guess. If you bring in a new guy, you know, they're not really productive the first month or two. You know, they try, they're helpful if it's just a labor task or something that they can pick up quickly. But as far as learning the city and learning what our procedures and things are, that can take up to a year for them to really get to where they can operate on their own, because they have to learn all the on-call procedures, where things are at.
Understand.
So it takes some time.
Understand.
So yeah, if you guys were somehow willing to tell me next month, we'll find a place in the budget to hire someone, that would be great. It would help some. I wouldn't say it wouldn't help, but it would be still a struggle to get somebody online and get them really up to snuff in time to help this situation.
Thank you.
any other questions for Tom? None? Okay, thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is reports, city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. Good evening, members of the council. My monthly report is in your packet and I don't have anything else to update the council with at this time. Happy to answer any questions if you have them. Thank you.
Questions for the city administrator? City attorney?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to say that we are about to finish our last acquisition transaction for the trail. And I want to just make a special recognition of Jenny and Amber for the work that they did to get that stuff closed under some weird time constraints that we weren't aware of until quite the last minute. They worked hard to get that stuff put together behind the scenes, and we got it accomplished with some of the issues we had and the timing. So we're getting pretty close to having that wrapped up, and we can look forward to the rest of the work that needs to be done with that. And then again, next year. That's all I've got.
City engineer?
I don't have much, along the lines of the trail. We're gonna have the pre-con for that next week for both that and roundabout. And then, the trees are down. So we made that deadline, which was important. And, we haven't started the trail until we have all the easements, which is good too. So thank you guys for all that work.
Is it applicable for a council member to attend a pre-construction meeting?
What now?
Is it applicable for a council member or council members to attend the pre-construction meeting?
Honestly? No.
Wanted to ask.
Yeah, I just,
Yep.
honest answer, but
Okay.
you're welcome to come if you'd like.
I don't think I have an Anderson Brothers hard hat, but if I find one. I might sneak on there.
It's what, they're white in color, like yours. Just,
Mm-hmm.
I mean. Okay. Okay, on to new business. First item is public hearing, reference the ordinance for curbside recycling.
So thank you, Mayor Ryan. So tonight for this ordinance, the council is familiar with the information in front of you tonight. We are holding the official public hearing, so the council will need to make a motion to open the public hearing. And then there will be public comment. Tom may or may not have any comments. Maybe he could speak to, I know he sent letters to all the haulers. Maybe he could just briefly speak to if he received any feedback or information with that. And then you can, if you choose to adopt the ordinance, we can take those steps.
So I'll entertain a motion to open public hearing.
I'd so move.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing on the ordinance for curbside recycling is open. Tom? I'll let you go first, and if you want to, and then if anyone wants to comment on the information, you might just answer their question for them.
Sure. So I've received no real comment from any of the haulers. However, I did get a filled out application and a check for the hauler's license already from one of the haulers today. So
Nice.
we're off to a good start. That's all
Immediately.
I've got, I guess.
Nice. Anyone have questions? Is there any public questions, comments, or anyone in the public have a comment? No?
So as the council considers adopting this ordinance, I believe if you want to make it effective at some future date, that council would specify effective as of identify the future date. Tom, is that proper? Okay, just wanted to confirm. So if the council is inclined to do this effective January 1, 2024, or pick your date, you would just include that in your motion to adopt the ordinance.
Okay. So we need a motion, and the motion needs to include when we wish to adopt, or the ordinance goes into effect.
And I apologize if we can close the public
Yes, that's
hearing
correct.
first. Sorry, I missed that.
So,
Tom?
I was just gonna make a recommendation for a start date. If you pick May 1st of 2024, I think that'd be a good time to start that.
okay, so I need a motion?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion,
To close the public hearing.
close public hearing.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
A public hearing is closed. Then I can entertain a motion on accepting the ordinance as present for the recycling ordinance, curbside recycling ordinance as presented. Somebody wants to do that?
I'll make a motion that we accept the curbside ordinance for recycling with a start date of May 1st, 2024.
I second.
Second, any discussion council wise?
Was it May, did you want it on January first? Was it Rick? Or May first? Okay.
And that'll give haulers plenty of time
Yeah.
to get up and running. They may not have their truck, but I know that Pequot, some of the haulers, Pequot for one, was very grateful that we were giving them time to get up and running.
One will not have their truck up to do.
Well,
By recollection of the
yeah, yeah.
last discussion.
Yeah,
we
one's
had.
already, yeah, some were already probably ready, so. Okay, no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Carried.
And if, Mr. Mayor, I can have a motion to publish the ordinance summary in the newspaper.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Second by Joe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Recommendation from, oh no, we did that.
Number 2.
Number 2 is the.
Oh, number 2 is the recommendation from Public Works reference to recycling hauler application and annual license fee. Does anyone have any questions on this for Tom? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I would entertain that we accept the application for annual solid waste haulers license as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Item number 3 is a Nisswa Hotel concept design. Gentlemen, would you like to come up and we'll open it up to you first and they can give.
Yeah, as they're coming up to the podium, either places works out great. I'll just provide an introduction. I've been working with Jason Jones and Max Heinzman for the past several months on an idea concept for an expansion of the Nisswa Motel. Councilmember Zahn has been a part of those initial conversations to just introduce city staff to this project. And I think that there's some very interesting and great opportunities to consider. Tonight is informational. They're going to just share some of their vision and their ideas, and hopefully the council can provide some thoughts, questions, give them some feedback on their project, and we can talk about next steps following the conversation, but just conversational discussion, and hopefully we can just share some feedback back and forth. With that, I'll turn it
I
over
guess
to
I'll
you.
start.
Yeah.
If I could to help Tom in his safety issues with the potholes and your concern, have you guys looked at talking to the state troopers of local police to provide safety so it doesn't affect the current budget? Just a thought. Anyhow, moving on to the hotel. We've been in works looking at trying to figure out a way, the local resorts have been keeping everybody in-house, keeping everybody on campus. Grandview's plan is to open more restaurants, more shops, keep everybody in-house. We're proposing to tear down the current motel and build a 60-room hotel with parking underneath, 1-story parking ramp. That would provide a smaller restaurant venue, smaller wedding venue, and looking at our building costs to keep it more affordable for families so that they're not stretched like going to Grandview, getting 2 rooms. So we're really looking at our building costs to provide 5-star hotel at a 3-star price and help generate more income, longer season for the city, and keeping it on the envelope that it's in, keeping it, a height restriction that fits the city, isn't overwhelming. And that's pretty much it. Also, I think our project could help with getting city sewer and water with the current grants that are available. So it may be a benefit to have a major project to entice a grant for city sewer and water. So anyhow, that's really all I have to say. You guys have the plan in front of you. And I own the motel, we operate it, and we'd like to try to move forward and building a hotel for the city.
That's where my dad stays when he comes from Colorado, but has been for a
Well,
while.
I come from across the street, so it's not that far.
I like this is what I like. It's innovation, it's thought. It's to nothing against our resorts. I love them. They bring people in, but it will be a way to have people stay.
Well,
Downtown.
we have a bigger campus. Their goals are, the companies that have bought them, their goals are to keep them on campus.
Correct.
So we need to get people here to stay on our campus, which is our town, feeding our community day and night, later at night, and a longer season. And I think with a hotel that fits our community, doesn't stick out, isn't giant. If you guys want to go online afterwards and look at the Hotel Crosby in Stillwater, it's kind of where I got my idea as far as designing to fit into the city, not be overwhelming, not be a Holiday Inn, but also provide accommodations that a middle-class family can afford.
Well, that I like it. And I like the fact that it's not chain. You know, I'm not a big chain person, local. I know the one thing I'm looking at is the height. We have a height restriction and we'll have to do something about that.
Well, I currently own the tallest building in Nisswa, so I don't think we've exceeded that height at this point. The house that we have on there is no higher than what this would be.
Oh, okay.
That's why that was a little bit of a joke, but I do have the tallest building in Nisswa currently.
Yeah, because I was looking at the 3+.
It will not exceed the height that we're looking at. We are 32 feet above sea level. And if we put a parking ramp in and we lower the structure, we'll be able to get 2 to 3 levels without exceeding the level that we're at currently, which will also make it very attractive as far as keeping the aesthetics of the city, kind of keeping it. We want to keep the city to be what it is. If you look at the upgrades that people are doing, making it feel up northy and not resorty, but yet providing all the amenities. I think our town offers that, and I think this hotel, helps promote it.
Jason, what do you believe?
It may be, okay, I should take that back. It may be taller, but it'd be by a couple of feet, but nothing like that house across the street that dwarfs everything else. I've never,
The eyesore?
Well, you can call it an eyesore. I call it a coliseum next to the other coliseum. I'm sorry, if I had that kind of money, I'd be building somewhere where nobody could see it, but that's not just me.
And the other thing too is, will you be any closer to 371 than you currently are?
No, we
Okay.
have looked at the fact, my understanding is that 66 feet from the center line, we pick up. However, I decided to look at this project on the envelope that we have so that we do not need to go out and get DOT approval. We don't need to deal with the DNR, that I literally put this whole project in the envelope that we own. And that we can see that city line to city line and that the city has jurisdiction over. So we don't need to go to the trouble of asking other people for their permission.
Mhm.
If we can get it, that would help our parking. We could add more parking, but where we stand, we can do it on the envelope that we have, what you see right now. And we should be able to get it done quickly.
Do you have a projected like to start date?
I would like to start September. I'd like to finish the season. Look for a spot to move the local motel if we can keep it in town, the motel that we have currently. I've looked at it, it's movable. I'd like to try to keep it in town if I can, and then start digging. I'm aggressive, but if I take my time, we'll never get it done. So if I'm aggressive, hopefully we'll get it done when I want to, or maybe later than that, but at least it'll get done.
Jason, what support do you believe that you will need from the city of Nisswa, the council, in order to see this project come through?
I would like everybody's input to make sure that it fits what our community is. I'm not gonna go out and build something or try to build something that's against what we want as a community. I love the insight on everybody and their opinions. I think if we can all put our opinions in and put it down on paper before we look for final approval, it'll help tremendously. And we are looking for TIF money, which, I'll be honest, who wouldn't be? And what that number is whatever it can support, nothing outrageous. But I believe whatever we put there is greatly going to benefit our community. Lengthen our season, make it nice longer.
Have you been to planning and zoning to discuss with Bethany any of this?
We've had a couple of meetings. We've spent a little bit of time during emails and stuff, so we kind of have an idea. But really, I don't want to build anything that this community doesn't want or doesn't need. I think that I'm fulfilling both, that we do need it and we can make it so we all accept it and like the way it looks.
I think I'm excited about it. I think it looks nice. At first, I was kind of thought to myself what people would generally think. The change is going to happen in the community, period. It doesn't matter what any, but it's the only constant there is. And this is a great addition to downtown. For what the reasons you laid out. I mean, I can come, I can stay, I got a great place to stay. I park my car down underneath. I can walk to the restaurants, I can walk to shops. If I want to get in my car and go somewhere else, I can. The hotel has always provided that. And this is just more of what you're providing.
And we are looking at putting an indoor swimming pool in to help, you know, with winter business. We're also looking at trying to do smaller wedding venues that are a little more affordable. You know, my goal is to try to get the building costs down where we can actually keep it less than the resorts, but still nice accommodations where you feel good about taking your family on vacation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's literally my goal.
That's what we do here. We have people come here and on vacation. That's what we do.
One point that I see on a high level and after discussing this project with some of the staff and Jason and Max, what does this do for our dynamic downtown? Well, we have a handful of restaurants in town. We have one municipal bar. We don't have a nightlife. The nightlife goes outwards once the sun sets. Some may view that as okay, but as we're starting to grow into the rest, following through this decade and the next, what opportunities are we missing and dollars are we leaving on the table by the amount of foot traffic we have in here in a specific given holiday or seasonal, peak seasonal tourism day? It all vacates, it floods out. What I see this acting as is a magnet. This is going to bring additional peoples into this community that perhaps have not been here before, or that would not stay and spend additional dollars. It gives us a potential reason to consider the possibility of opening up a liquor license or multiple liquor licenses to have additional restaurants be moved into this town, if it's so desired. It is a non-chain. That is very attractive. It keeps things local. We understand that. The underground parking dynamic of what can be accommodated for city parking, if there is a request for TIF funds and how that can work, how the city can, how we can justify that to the taxpayers. Additionally, then water. This is going to, at max capacity, especially with the swimming pool, that can be a strain on a well system. It adds, just off of a couple projects we spoke about yesterday at the retreat, this can be another compelling case for federal funding of a eight-figure sum by the federal level to try to get this water running into downtown too. I see a lot of pros. I don't have a lot of cons that come to mind, and I think this could be a cornerstone project that could really bring a lot of economic activity to this area. And I'll conclude with, if we proceed through with the sales tax, everything I just led through, that's going to increase substantially with a project like this. So I like it. I think the design is beautiful. I think it reflects what Nisswa really is, stone and wood. So
The one thing I would make sure we keep our public works director in the loop too, because traffic, that area is interesting, as you know.
That it is interesting.
That's why, you
That's
know,
one of the reasons that we've looked at putting parking underneath. And we've
Yeah.
put everything on our envelope and to help, you know, eliminate some of the parking problems that we have here. I mean, if we wanted to spend a little more money and get a little more help, we could go 2 stories deep with the parking and provide quite a bit of parking. That might be sometime for another subject. But it's possible being that high above sea level. So there are some things that we could do if we work together on the parking aspect and also keeping the city looking clean. But I know I don't want to muddy the waters. It's just, it's possible if we need more parking. I would like to introduce Max Heitzman. He is our construction manager. He has all the, I dream it. He figures out how to make it work. So if I could introduce him and he can answer any questions, I'd appreciate it.
Well, Max Heitzman,
master properties. So I'm helping Jason with the development and he came to me with this idea a while ago. I just wanted to get up and kind of talk about procedurally, you know, as far as height goes, and setbacks and things of that nature and planning and zoning. We sat down with staff, I think in December, and our goal was to get to something that we thought would work, show it to you all, get some feedback, you know, and then we'll sit down with Bethany and go through, you know, what do we need to do for height? What's the, you know, current ordinance and, you know, setbacks, everything, go through what that process will be. And really that's going to drive timing too. We know that. And, from you all beyond TIF, I guess, if we're all on board with this, we're going to need support in whatever, if it's a variance or CUP for height, et cetera. You know, if we agree this is what should go here, then, you know, we'll move forward and go through that process and do what we need to do. So just wanted to say that, and I'm here to make sure Jason doesn't say anything that's gonna get us in trouble. So in any case. But I'm really excited about it, and I spend a lot of time up here. I think it'll, you know, as Jesse and Jason have said, I think we all realize what great things it could do for the area. And hopefully also, you know, one of the things we had talked about is kind of activating or, you know, connecting the waterfront and that connection, which is great, but I think underutilized. And so we've looked at how do we connect the hotel to that area and encourage people to use that waterfront and hopefully make it more attractive. I mean, both directions, right? So I think there's a lot of great things that could come with this. So
One question I do have is, with that height, for the sprinklers, we would have to have water, right?
No.
You really couldn't do it from a well, would you? You
Yeah,
can?
we can sprinkle from a well, correct?
You can do
Yes, we
that
can.
and just have the pump
Yeah.
take care of it.
You'll have holding tanks and pumps, yes, but it can be
Okay.
done from a well.
Good, so we wouldn't have to worry about when the city gets water.
I mean, I would
if
really
we
like
ever
the city
do.
to get water and I would advocate for it and push for it.
Yeah,
But if not, we can make this project work the way it stands with what we have.
okay,
Just a couple of practical things. The
Yep.
city's not gonna get water by this fall.
Correct.
So,
You can dream a little bit,
Right.
can't you?
right. So, or even by next fall. So water things out, the whole height thing that has been, I'll say a point of contention or a sort of subject in the city for 20+ years.
Correct.
So your current design does not meet the current building code. That being said, I personally believe it's something that needs to be looked at. I mean, I've brought this up myself for years and years, but just even like in our meeting yesterday, you know, those core ordinances, and if Bethany wants to speak to it, that is going to start to look at this fall going into winter. Correct me on the time frame on just changing or on looking through our rest of our ordinances. Right, yeah, that would impact this area. And so just being upfront with you, not giving you false hope, currently where the city's at, I don't want to speak for.
We may have to ask for a variance. We also, if I have to, you know, I can play with elevations. I mean, elevations are ground and removing dirt, and I'm not making light of the situation, correct?
Right,
But if you look at the house that you just approved across the street, our hotel would be no more invasive than that and prettier. And I can meet the same height requirements.
I guess the house across the street meets the current ordinances and
And
personally don't think it's a
I
bad
believe I can too.
I think it's.
I
a nice
believe
looking
with
place,
the
but-
elevation, and what we have to deal with,
Right.
an excavation, I can meet them. I'm hoping that we can, you know, work through it and maybe if we need a variance, get it. But I think that the variance versus the benefit to the city, I think our benefits outweigh the variance. I'm looking for.
So, yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to have you walk away here with false hope. Many people have stood at that podium over the last 20 years trying to get a 3-story building in this town and has yet to succeed. Now.
Well, then
I-
I'll make it 2 stories. We'll
Right.
succeed.
Well, I just want to let you know, but I do think it's something for us to look at because, the city needs 3-story buildings, throughout town, just not here for assisted living, apartments, everything, to make this town into something. And so, I guess the only thing I would have to say is I wouldn't be opposed to this, but I would be opposed to a variance or granting only this because it's in downtown. And if we're going to do 1 3-story building, then we've got to open the floodgate, so to speak, and let everyone else do their projects that have stood there and been denied.
And that's fair.
And so
very
I
much
guess that's what I would just say right now at this time.
I see where you're coming from, and I honestly can't say I disagree.
Right.
Ceteris paribus, it's fair for all, so. Perhaps that's something that we can work to discuss next planning and zoning meeting, Bethany, and then we can have it for the, it's almost May now, May council meeting.
I didn't mean to get confrontational, but I do agree with you that we do need to
Yeah.
change that variance so that we can increase the income of the overall city. But we also have to keep in mind that we also don't want to invite something that's overwhelming and ugly.
No, I don't think there's anything ugly about it. There's just past history with the city that the two of you probably don't know about, is what I'm saying.
Right.
That needs addressed before your project or any project like that could go forward.
Perfect.
And so,
And I,
not opposed.
yeah, and I'm on the same way. And I think some of us have thought in the back of our head, looking at the 3-story. But yes, I know where you're coming from. And that was my thought too. That's why I brought that up in the beginning with the height. I think Jesse was on spot when he said that could be brought to, or maybe the planning and zoning can look at that ordinance.
I see one flaw in the design, and it's not your doing, but
You didn't draw it?
those power lines look kind of gaudy on there.
Okay,
in front of it.
Jesse, we can't change the whole city overnight. Let's start bit by bit, all right?
Well, if we get city water.
I understand they are ugly, but a lot of things are.
If we get city water and we come downtown
Okay,
from.
I
this
need to
water
build a
tower.
hotel before 2 years and before the power lines are moved, but I'll help with anything I can.
Well, we had to be like up north where they bury the power lines.
That's what I was gonna
We
say, when
should
we
bury
come
the
through
power
city
lines.
water, then everything can go underground, and then it's,
Uh-huh.
and it's a lot of boxes coming out of
Mhm.
concrete, so.
All I can say.
Well, I appreciate you guys' time. I am really dedicated to doing this project. We will work with you guys, whether we have to meet different height restrictions. Take everybody's ideas into account and try to accommodate what the city wants to showcase and build it. I'm excited about the project. I'm putting all my eggs in this basket. Any financing that we do need, we will keep local. So there's nothing going out of the city with it or out of our community. And we are able to work with the height restrictions. If I have to change them in order to meet the current conditions, I will. If we need to request a variance to keep what we have, I'm willing to do that too, but I'm excited to work with the city in any way I can and boost our community.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a recommendation from Parks Commission to appoint a commission member.
Can I just make a motion?
Yeah.
I've met this young lady. She seems like she'd be a very good fit for the Parks and Rec. She has a small business that deals with outdoor and recreation. Am I wrong on that, Amber? That should be. Yes, marketing outdoor. So I think she'd be a great fit, especially with the things that are coming up for Parks and Rec. If I'm off base, Amber, just let me know.
Motion to approve.
So I will make a motion to approve Ms. Marsh for the Parks and Rec Commission as presented.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution to support Sourcewell Community Impact Funding Application for Parks. Amber.
Mark, you want this one too? Just
No.
kidding. Thank you. So this one, in looking at where our projects are at and the funding that's needed, came up with the idea of putting in for the Sourcewell Community Impact Grant. it is a random draw. So it's unique in that they're randomly selected for this grant until funds are exhausted. So it is for the vault toilet, which I've been looking at going through their purchasing pricing for that toilet as well. So that's what the grant would be for.
This is for the hole in a day
Yes.
part, yeah, okay.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the resolution supporting the request for funding as presented.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Any questions, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you.
Number 6, fire hall roof repair quote. And I think Thielen is the only one we got a quote from, correct, Tom?
Yeah, that's right. I did reach out to one other contractor for that, that we have used for repairs throughout town. Horizon, and they didn't come up to
Snooze
make an
you
effort.
lose.
Are there really only just 2 contractors that can do
I
this?
did contact a third and they were a little too small for this project, so they declined to give me a bid too.
Thielen's done this for us before. right?
They have, yes.
Yeah, they're,
Feeling's the best. in
Yeah.
there.
well, I'll make a motion that we accept the bid as presented.
I'll second.
Question, Mayor Ryan. From where are we using the funds to pay for this?
Do we need a separate motion on that too, or not?
No, I just, we
Well-
haven't budgeted for it, so I just want to make sure we're clear on how we're gonna pay for this.
My personal opinion is we take it on unallocated funds, simply because we can't wait any longer on this road. It's got to get done, so
More than fine, just want to make sure
that's
we're
my.
all on the same
opinion.
page.
I don't know
so.
what the rest of the council thinks. Where the council wants to.
Sean
go.
has something to say.
John, come on up.
Come on up, please.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, come on.
I listen when you ask on, I go there for you.
Don't you like to see the snow on the roof?
Skylight.
Okay.
No,
Is there-
they're gone.
As far as funding, does anyone else have any other comments?
What do we have left in ARPA? Court, 1.25.
We have $166,957.45.
Could do that
Do
too.
we have any other preliminary level? Do we have any other intended uses for that?
Lots of ideas, certainly,
of
but you do have
ideas.
3 items in front of you tonight that do not have
Funding.
funding a budget, so
What are the other ones?
The radiant.
all 3 upcoming items total $128,006.
Can we talk about the funding after we go through those items?
Sure.
Well, we could always bring
Mike-
funding for it back to next month too, if you want, or unless you want us to look, I mean,
I would think it needs to be a part of the conversation, so you can,
part-
if you want
but one of the, some of it's gonna have to come from unallocated funds, most likely. And some.
to,
could
we
come
have
from
more
ARPA.
ARPA funds than the requests in front
Correct.
of you.
There, yes,
Oh, okay.
and it would leave us with about 20,000.
Yes.
So,
The only thing I know in ARPA, we did discuss about building security for City Hall, but it's looking like that's probably gonna be a bond anyway. From yesterday's conversation.
Right.
Start looking at everything we need to do. So that's not an issue anymore. I would, if we can get it all done with ARPA funds, that's even better.
Well, I'm doing the math here, 1 second.
yeah, it's about 20, 30,000 we'll have left.
I just added up the upcoming 3 for the roof, the radiant heating and the concrete. That's $128,006. So
What are the other needs that have been requested for that funding within the city?
Nothing formal. We've talked about potential using it for various Parks project, Skull Lake Trail. Since there's gonna be no bridge for that, security, I mean, there's
I agree.
endless uses, so.
I agree with Mayor Ryan in regards to security being added to the bond for the building. It's relevant. There's still some left in the kitty technically. Amber, in regards to some parks needs, what was the total number for ARPA? You said 160?
167, I'll say.
So are there, so some of the other needs, some of the other needs
39.
within the city. Is it more, I don't know, prevalent or easier to digest using that money for that and using a roof repair out of the general funds, if that makes sense? You know, roof repair has to get done,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, it's.
The other
Community
projects that
property.
we may want to use
Correct.
the money for would be, a want versus a need, and so are we better off using, like I say, money in the reserve and using these funds for like park projects or something? I guess I'm just.
Well, my
asking.
understanding is that it's restricted as to what you can use it for, right?
Correct.
There's a limit to what you can use it for.
No, it's very, we could use it for whatever we want.
Really vague.
It opened up.
For whatever we want?
Yeah.
It opened up.
Without saying that?
Oh, it opened up.
Almost, yes. Almost.
First was very restrictive, then they kind of changed the ball field and it got changed. Now it's like you have the money.
Okay.
Use it how you.
Use it
deem
by
necessary.
2026 or something similar?
Yes, we have to determine how we're gonna use the funds by the end of 24, and then we actually have to spend the funds by the end of 26.
Tom, if we went ahead with all, well, I don't see us not going ahead with all three of these tonight, but how long will it take them to get it done, do you think? Or when did they give you anything like that?
I didn't ask for a timeline. I think the concrete would happen relatively quickly. I think this is a job that's small for them
Okay.
and
Are there gonna be any conflicts with fire department? Events or anything if it's done in the next couple months?
Well, it's gotta be done after road restrictions, so we're
Well,
looking
yeah,
at
but-
least a month out,
They gotta get in and cut out the concrete and do some of that.
but no.
I
Okay,
think
then, okay, then.
It's- yeah.
I'm good with ARPA funds being used for. it.
We would still have about 30 rounding up
Yeah.
$6. We'd have $39,000 left over with ARPA funds to be allocated to other.
And if
Use
it's
the
can be
purpose.
used for anything, I would use everything that we need to get done now with that
Yeah.
funds.
So, Mr. Mayor, without further discussion, I'll make a motion for the fire hall roof repair quotes, to select Thielen Roofing to contract for the work, total cost of $103,100.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
With the utilization from funds for this project coming from our ARPA
Yes.
funds.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next item is the fire hall, radiant heating, repairs, Tom?
so I don't, as Sean can attest and probably Joe too. We have these infrared radiant heating tubes on the drill floor for the fire department and currently they're not all operational. And they're pretty much past their service life and there's issues with them. So I had contacted Thielen Heating first to ask them what we can do or what we should do with them. And he had recommended that we consider replacing them with actually hanging heaters. He said it would be better for the paint on the trucks. Obviously, there's a lower cost to them. I like his arguments for why we should do that. And then I got one more quote to see, are we being treated fairly with price? That second quote was from Superior Mechanical. They had a somewhat better price, but he had a lot of the same advice. And so with that, I would recommend the proposal for 14,225 to replace the tube heating with hanging heaters.
And what size are the heaters that Superior is looking at? What BTU?
I don't have the actual quote right in front of me. I just have the request for council action, but
Okay. I would assume they're gonna be at least 60,000 like Thielen was doing.
Well, we had to have had the specifications laid out in the RFQ, so they would be bidding it the same as any other person bidding it. An idea would be to get crafty is multi-award discount. Gross 5% on the total. If we award you both, we do that at times, if Thielen was willing to entertain that.
Well, you did
Yeah, they're that
mention
close.
yesterday too, was mentioned that there was talk about ceiling fans to help keep the air down. That
Yes.
wasn't,
That's
that's
not
not
included.
currently installed and it's not something we figured. But we do have some ARPA funds left over too, that if we have,
Yeah, we'd have to contact an electrician for those, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah. so we can do that, but that would be an important thing to do. Plus, these are gonna move the air around anyway when they're on.
Yeah, they'll be positioned so that they're moving the air in the most optimal way.
Okay.
I think both of these contractors are very reputable. We've used both of them in various capacities throughout town, so it's a matter of whatever your preference is.
Sean, are you good with this? Okay, just want to ask,
This is a,
recommends.
so.
Okay.
Well, thanks for calling it little.
So your recommendation, Tom, is to go with Superior's proposal for the 14,225.
Yeah, and my recommendation is based just on the cost.
Okay.
I don't question there's quality with both bids.
I'd make a motion that we go ahead with the quote with Superior
And ARPA.
For 14,225.
for 14,000.
Okay.
And using the ARPA funds for it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll
And I-
second.
Okay, go ahead. Who seconded it?
Mark,
Mark Freely.
Mark.
Okay, any further discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. And then Tom, alls I would say is when you guys sit down and look at the inside there for ceiling fans, just let us know maybe sooner than later. Cause they're gonna have to wire these resonors in anyway.
Yeah.
So. If we have to come back and do that, but just kind of get it all done and out of their hair, so we're not.
Yeah, I think it'll be a minor thing to put in the
Yeah.
ceiling fans.
I don't know how many are they talking, did he say?
Maybe 4.
Are we talking the cabana type with the big fluffy like feather type?
Yeah, are you familiar with,
Yeah, we'll put flamingos in there and stuff, yeah.
have you heard of something called big ass fans?
I have, and they're nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Concrete.
Okay, next item,
Concrete.
the
It's
next
concrete.
item on the agenda is number 8, fire hall concrete repair quote.
Okay, so what this is for, if you go to the fire hall, a few of the concrete ballards that protect the garage doors have rotted off. And so what this does is it replaces all of those, makes them new again, and it also replaces the aprons on the garage doors. And as far as getting quotes on it, we did check around. These gentlemen were the only ones that got back to us.
Question in doing this. Does that little chunk or apron in front of that other door? That's all chipped out and busted out too? Yeah, in the front door?
I think so. I'll have to check with Mike.
Did they include that in it?
I think so.
Cause the back one was all busted up, but that front one, I think is in need.
Of course, at that time, we had Bill working for us, so his old man being a concrete guy.
Just while we have a concrete guy out there, if there's another 4x5 slab. That we could entertain looking at the same time to just get it all done.
In the interest of moving this forward, would the repair work for that slab be higher than this?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
That the repairs wouldn't be this high, would it? But if you, just on that 5 by, what is it, slab? 4x5
Oh,
slab.
no, I
Okay, so
don't
that's
believe
something that
so.
if the concrete guy is gonna be there, you get a price on it, you and Jenny can just go ahead and pull the trigger on
Yeah, I
it.
think it'd be certainly
Yeah.
less than $5,000. I don't know how much.
Right.
I can't do the math in my head.
If it
but
makes
it's
sense to
not gonna
do
be
it
that
when
much.
there's concrete person there anyway, they're ordering concrete to come in, what's the difference? But you can pull the trigger on that one without our approval,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
I would say that that would be something that I would be in favor of you just going ahead and doing so that it's done. And they don't have to worry about it. Yep.
Well, then I would make a motion that we go ahead and repair the fire hall concrete for $10,681 with the ARPA funds.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Hey, Tom, one more contractor to add to your list for concrete work. I don't know if, have you reached out to H&H Masonry?
I think we have in the past. I don't know if Mike did on this one or not.
I know the owner and I know.
Single
that-
Decker had done some other work for us inside
Sure.
the fire hall recently.
Yeah.
Really, it's really just getting a matter of getting contractors to return our phone calls.
Sure, I know this one will. He lives in this one. I know him personally. He'll
Okay.
get you a good honest number.
Okay,
And if he
Yeah,
doesn't,
but-
I know where he lives.
we're always looking to add contractors who
Mhm.
will help us out with a bid.
Okay.
So,
Thanks.
sounds good. Thank you, gentlemen.
Next item is a resolution for commercial lease with the state of Minnesota. This has to do with the trail, I believe. So it's all signed, sealed, delivered, is there any, nothing fancy? I'll make a motion that we accept the lease as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Here. Approved City of Nisswa audited financial statements. We had this as from the presentation that we had at the workshop.
Jenny, is this gonna be two different motions? For the audited financials and then for the report to the members of governance?
You can just approve both
At one
as
time.
one time.
That's what we've always done, generally.
Fair enough. Unless anybody has any questions, I'll make a motion to approve the City of Nisswa audited financial statements for the year ending in 2022, which would include the audited financial statement and the report to the members of governance.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And again, Jenny, Maggie, thank you very much. I know it's always that time of the year where nobody likes to do that.
And it sounds like they think highly of you too. So
Yeah, did very well.
Knock it out of the park again.
thank you. It's a lot of work.
Number 11, a request to open Field of Interest Fund with the Brainerd Lakes Area Community Foundation.
I would like to make the motion that we go ahead and approve opening the Field of Interest Fund with the Brainerd Lakes Area Community Foundation.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
If I could, just to confirm or kind of reaffirm what I mentioned yesterday during our retreat, I will bring final documentation to the council for approval in May. This is just to allow me to move forward and work through the details. So you will see the final agreement and that before it's official. But thank you so much for your support.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mayor reports. Thanks everybody yesterday. Appreciated it. From what I understand, a lot of people appreciated the way it went. As far as being able to be there and present it to staff, thank you very much. We got a lot of information that we all get to digest prior to budget talks. So I appreciate that. So that's all I have. Mark?
I don't have anything.
Mark?
No.
I do have a golf fundraising event that'll be taking place Friday, June 30th. It's called the Joe Hags Game Winning Drive. golf tournament. It's a fundraiser for the Brandon Warrior Football Association. Last year was our inaugural year. We raised $30,000 for the football organization, all encompassing ISD 181. We're in the works, albeit long works of creating a 501c3 through the IRS, and that sucks. But all in all, it's gonna be a foundation that's gonna support public youth football programs across central Minnesota. So we're opening registration on Friday. And if there's any interest to the public or anybody within this room, council hall, please go to the gamewinningdrive.org. That's all I got.
Joe?
Nope.
Okay. There's nothing else. One thing I want to mention, because I was told by Kiki, I better mention it. This Friday, we have our special council meeting. It's a local board of appeals and equalization. It starts at 1 p.m. We need to have a quorum there. I am planning to attend
I will.
unless somebody at work tells me I can't. But I am planning to be there. We need to have at least a quorum, or we lose, which we did once before, the ability to be the presiding authority over that for a year.
I'll be there.
Okay, so if you can be there, please let Jenny know so that we know we have, or Kiki
And,
know. that
and
we
if you
have-
haven't been there, it's a fun time.
Oh, yeah. Very joyful.
Check with my boss. Yeah.
What Mark is trying to say is that there was a reason he could get out of it, he probably would.
And I checked with my boss, and I don't know if I can actually dedicate any more time this week, being gone all day yesterday. But if we do not have a quorum, then call me and let me know.
It
skedaddle out
benefits,
of there.
I'll tell you what, it really benefits our Nisswa residents if we have a quorum.
Yeah.
Because things have come up in the past where I foresee things would have been steamrolled in. That's just my
Last
view
year
of it.
was interesting.
And some revelations came out, which were pretty interesting. I think that was in last year's. So it's our opportunity to help our citizens.
Absolutely.
I have to apologize, but I won't be able to make it.
At least we know it helps ahead of time. So if anything changes for the three of you.
And I don't
please
know,
let me know.
From the quorum.
can they
Sure.
come in via
Zoom.
Zoom in?
I don't think so.
By my memories of taking that education before the Minnesota
Yeah,
or
they
that
cannot.
training,
No.
no, by memory not.
Nope,
By memory not.
that you have to be in person.
Okay,
And again, if I need to drive 7 minutes down the road, I'll find a way.
that's it. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
All right, so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Great.
Ah.